if everyone is that close and we are doing all of these analyses, and if you're betting home dogs this season, you love having the Commanders late against the Titans because the Titans are clearly going to cough that up, right? And then after the game, Rivera's asked, what's the difference between your team and every other team in the NFC East? And he says something you never hear a coach say, and he just says quarterback, as his team is at the bottom of the NFC East and everyone is clustered together. And all you really know is that so far is that the Chiefs and the Eagles and the Bills are good.
But you say I'm microanalyzing. I know a lot of people were, but during the Tua thing, I just kind of stood to the sideline and let everybody have a rock fight. And I played both sides. The Tua thing was unprecedented fairly for a sport that has people getting hit in the head constantly. When have we ever seen a perfect storm like that? So if people want to make a specific ruling that if a player gets up and stumbles and faints and has to be held up kind of, and even though he passes all the concussion protocol, you want to hold him out of the game? I'm good with that, I guess, but I think all of it's kind of silly because I know what I'm watching on Sundays and Mondays.
Just because we know we're watching, though, doesn't mean we shouldn't take extra precaution when it comes to their brains.
And I'm good.
Right.
You took extra precaution. In the event if a quarterback falls on the floor, his head hits a turf, like it did with Tua, and he stumbles, I'm totally fine taking them out of the game.
But the Bridgewater thing.
But the Bridgewater thing is not that.
Right.
The Bridgewater thing was not that.
I'm with you, but it's just hard to make that argument a week after the Tua thing.
Why?
It is.
Why?
Because it just looks so bad. Like,
I
optics
don't
has
care
to
how
matter.
it looks like. We're having a discussion. It's football.
But this is all because of how it looked like.
Precisely.
You ever get in a fight with your wife and the next day you're like extra nice?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
It's called overcompensating.
Okay, but now your wife is married to Skylar Thompson. Enjoy.
She'd love that. My wife, I mean.
I love last night Troy Aikman giving credit to Chiefs fans for booing. He's like, these are smart fans. These fans know, and it's just like they're just booing. They're just furious at the officials.
But ravenously.
But extra booing. It's like, oh, that's extra smart. That's smart booing. You hear that booing? That's smart booing right there.
They found it from within themselves to in the start of the second half. I think after the Chiefs had a possession, when the Raiders returned to the field, they were remembered from 20 minutes ago. Oh yeah, we got to keep booing, boo! And they kept that was as angry as I've ever seen a crowd when the referee has come out and said, I was just following the rules. Yeah. The rules say if you land on the quarterback with your full body weight, that's roughing the passer. That's in the rule book.
I actually understand that rule because there's been collarbone injuries with it. And I think that to a degree that's what happened with the Jarrett Brady thing. But bullying works. We've seen it with public scandals. We saw it with Tua, and we saw it in that Chiefs game because there was a very friendly whistle for the Chiefs shortly thereafter that call.
We will talk about Devontae Adams at some point, pushing a cameraman. Can't be doing that. I don't know what the penalty is going to be. I am waiting for Greg Cody to catch his breath because he came in here and I can hear him breathing heavy here because he got caught up in traffic. So we haven't gotten your take as the local homerific columnist on everything that happened with Bridgewater, a Bridgewater too far as Bridgewater. You can't make that up. I was in Exuma, so I didn't see the beginning of the game because television is so hard to get out there. But what I saw was a box score in the first quarter that had Bridgewater 0 for 1 and then Skylar Thompson with a stat line. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, did the Dolphins do an okie doke? Did they start Bridgewater so they'd prepare for Bridgewater and then do a surprise of putting in?
That would have been great. That's next level, man.
I wasn't watching what happened. I couldn't have imagined the fictional scenario in comedy. on a night, Stugotz, he doesn't have the information for this game, but John Oliver in 30 minutes on what's happening in Iran and the strength of teenage girls in Iran going against the regime as a throwaway line for a sentence, makes a Monday Night Football joke, and then just says pretty matter-of-factly, we really shouldn't be playing that sport, should we? The first time they've attacked the issue, right? It's a very big
enough
issue.
of him. Seriously.
And it does make me wonder as I'm watching it, right? As you're trying to make assessments at home at the quarterback position on how brain damaged are they?
Right. Enough of Oliver. I'm tired of the redcoats telling us what we should be doing over here. Okay.
Seriously. The NFL is not a volunteer It's a volunteer army. You're not drafted into the NFL. You don't have to play and risk a concussion, right? I mean, that's my attitude. In exchange for a very lucrative salary and a fairly short career, you take the risk of a concussion. Now, they're trying to make the sport safer, and we saw that with that sack that probably shouldn't have been a penalty. The guy, when he landed on the quarterback, Chris Jones, he didn't even have anywhere to go. He had, players all around him.
Well, I imagine people would accuse John Oliver of virtue signaling and all the Twitter fights that happen in people's mentions. But John Oliver's a big Liverpool fan, and I'm sure if you asked him in front of a live mic, knowing what his audience is, should they stop playing soccer? If you invoke head trauma, he'd probably say yes, especially if you look across the youth numbers. And they've made sweeping changes to the women's game and to the U15s, I believe, in terms of being able to play the ball with your head. Certain sports are very dangerous.
Rugby comes to mind.
I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah.
Same thing with professional wrestlers. They kind of know what they're getting into. Now parents have more data than ever to make these decisions. If you get into this sport, there's a decent chance your life is forever changed. I still think you have lines outside the door to not just participate in it, but to watch it.
No doubt. I don't feel guilty as a football fan. I just don't. Am I enabling a violent sport that maims people? Yes, by being a fan. But again, it's a volunteer army, the NFL.
So why should we feel guilty as fans for watching something that these players want to play?
Because to his hands.
So if I asked you right then, with his hands, if I'd asked you right then, what's happening with his hands?
Yeah, it was disgusting. It made me cringe. It made me question what it is I'm watching. But I've questioned what it is I'm watching before, and I'll question it again.
But you're just
I'm still going to watch it.
But you're
said,
questioning
stop
just to say you're
me.
questioning. You're not actually questioning it. You're saying
Well, that's not fair. You're not in my head.
You just said it. You just said it.
I said I'm going to question it again, and I'm going to watch it again.
Stugotz,
As long as players are going out there every Sunday and giving me my entertainment and allowing me to bet, I'm going to watch.
You just said, I will feel no guilt about this. And I said, and if I ask you when the hands are splayed in front of the face, and your response was, yeah, I questioned it then, while not actually questioning it. You're not.
This is a human condition, and I back him up. He did feel guilty. Stop questioning him if he felt guilty.
Exactly.
He's a man. He doesn't want to give you that satisfaction.
That's
he knows
right.
what he's watching.
Thank you, Mike.
When Tua's hand sees, he was disgusted, revolted, asked himself some questions, and primarily, should I hop on the Bengals live?
Exactly.
Because this sport is awesome.
Opportunity.
Let me ask you a question here, because you've said more than any other phrase here over this hour. I know what I'm watching, okay? I'm curious if that's what you would say, like walking through these nursing homes where these 50 and 60-year-olds have lost their mind, pre-pension and these kind of safety things. Like, do you and do they?
Yeah, when I follow Steve Mongo McMichael and I see him bedridden and I see it CTE, or when I'm crying watching the Steve Gleason documentary, and when I'm donating to Steve Gleason's foundation, yes, I feel very sad for their condition. And at the same time, when it's 7 hours of commercial-free football, and it's a witching hour when wins become losses and losses become wins, I'm at the edge of my seat, and so are you.
It can be both.
So is it can be.
It can
so
be.
let's stop pretending that we're one or the other.
But who's pretending? It's just...
A lot of crisis actors out there, Dano.
Yep.
A lot of them.
Who's pretending, though? It is too big to fail, a commerce center that we have gotten content out of forever. Like, who's pretending anything other than we love this thing that continually produces things that we hate?
Right. And some of the controversy now is not just the game that we love, it's the controversy over the game that we love. It's a Tua decision. It's a decision for Tua and his family and anybody else who is severely concussed. Not my decision.
Yeah, okay, you say it's not your decision, but I put it in front of you now with somebody you actually care about. Not with your regional identity and pride, but somebody you actually care about. Because it's Whitlock out here and the original concussion guy that they made a film about saying Tua should just quit. And they're the extremists saying, what are you talking about? No quarterback at this age would quit, but they're saying just quit. Ricky Williams is saying maybe football's not for you, too, and he doesn't mean it as an indictment. He's just saying, man, you're small and you're getting hurt, and your finger shouldn't do that in front of your face, and it's a couple of concussions possibly, and you get ragdolled pretty good. Maybe it's not for you. Make Tua someone you actually care about. Are you coming to him and saying quit? Because I feel like we all might.
I might.
And we would all understand that the answer would be no, But I don't believe we actually know all the consequences. And the last people I'm asking about knowing consequences are 20-year-old athletes.
What's the solution? If Tua were my son, which he is, by the way, because I love him so much,
Exactly.
would I tell him to not
Day
play
one guy.
football? Probably not.
Yep.
I'm not playing football because I'm not talented. I played spring football. It hurt me too much. I didn't want to play it. But I love watching other people play it. My daughter, I love soccer. I play goalkeeper in my Sunday league. I would love for my daughter to play soccer and like the position that I do. But there is several studies out there that say women goalkeepers that are playing on these artificial turfs get higher rates of cancer. Not going to let her play goalkeeper, man. It's too dangerous. It's my decision. If my daughter really wants to fight me when she's 15 years old, which is probably way too late to make any sort of career in the thing, and wants to play goalkeeper, we can have that discussion. But there's data out there. The times are different now than they were in the 1980s or 70s, and I totally understand why those players sued, give them all the money in the world, why people feel hoodwinked and bamboozled because of what the sport was before and jacked up segments and all that. Game's different now. We know what we're getting into.